What's going on YouTube? Cloverbuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be spotlighting Ting Lu for the Regulation F format. Welcome back, Ting Lu, and many of you watching right now are thinking, why the heck are we using Ting Lu in Regulation F? Well, it died, right? You know, it was very much used in, Regulation C, and then come Regulation D and E, and it was nowhere to be found. And now all of a sudden you're telling me that Ting Lu is back? What is going on here? So why is Ting Lu all of a sudden rising? So, if you just look at its, if you look at what's relevant in the meta right now, then you'll understand completely. First of all, dark typing is really good in Regulation F, right? Because of the Psyspam stuff with Indeedee Iron Crown, right? They click Expanding Force, all right? A lot of your things that are not dark type, they start to melt unless your name is Ogerpon Wellspring, and unless you have that key dark type, then you have to really play your way around it, right? But Ting Lu says, I don't care about that because one, I am a dark type, and two, I have Vessel of Ruin. And if you don't know what Vessel of Ruin does, it basically means that you're just reducing special attack damage, right? Which is really good. So, you have that going for you. And then at the same time, you're super bulky, right? Like base 155 HP, 110 attack, 125 defense. Again, another one of those triple-digit Pokemon that has triple-digit stats in HP, attack, and defense. And then now the special defense, again, it's not paper, but 80 special defense is still like very good. Combined with the fact of Vessel of Ruin, now you're sitting in front of stuff like Landorus Incarnate, stuff like Chi-Yu, and they're just not doing a lot of damage. And then because you're also a ground type, now you have some great immunity against stuff like Raging Bolt, right? Because you can't click that electric move, whether it be Thunderclap or Thunderbolt, and Dragon Pulse is just not doing a lot of damage. Like even after like 1 or 2 Calm Minds, like even 3, like that's still just not enough damage to really break through something like a Ting Lu. And then what you can also consider now is you can even tank Flutter Mains, right? Depending on their sets and of course the EVs, which we're gonna give you. So you've got that going for you. And then now you add something like Clear Amulet, which is what some players are starting to do. Now you can't get Intimidate cycled, right? Because now stuff like Incineroar can't really do anything to you. Now you're going to start pressuring it right back with Stomping Tantrum. And then if you just consider Blood Moon Ursaluna, again, another really strong special attacker. But again, Ting Lu can mitigate that damage for your team. So this way you can survive and then you can potentially KO it right back. So you've got all these things going for you. And then, you just consider stuff like, like even Arcalunon is going to have a little bit of trouble. Like granted, it can't click Body Press, but we can work our way around that. Like, Ting Lu actually is a pretty good niche Pokemon, right? And then just think of like the other fire types like Entei, for example. Like Chien-Pao is going to do like pretty decent damage into Ting Lu, but, at the end of the day, it can't one-shot you, and then you can actually KO it right back, depending on what else you have on this Ting Lu set. So that being said, I think it's a great niche Pokemon. Like, it's not going to like break the meta, but people are definitely experimenting with it and they're trying it. Again, the question mark with Ting Lu was the damage output, right? So, if you can only find a way to boost Ting Lu's damage, then all of a sudden it starts looking really good, okay? And then for, I was just thinking back in Regulation C, there was, a pretty good 4 that complemented Ting Lu relatively well. And I think back, and it was basically this. It was Gyarados, it was Amoonguss, it was Flutter Mane. Okay, actually it was more Palafin, but Gyarados was also used in that slot. And then you had something like a Chi-Yu over here, right? Like I remember that's these 4, complementing each other, right? I remember this, okay? And now I was thinking like, how can we like modernize this in Regulation F? And then I thought again, like, oh, wait a minute. I remember Portland and I remember what Luka did, okay? And we can actually modernize what Luka did in Regulation F if we just take a look at his team from Fort Wayne, which was, I think, like a year ago, right? So we go back into the Victory Road VGC website. This was back in July, and I looked through their compendium for their rental teams, and I saw Luka's team. Okay, and when I did, right here from Fort Wayne, right back in April 2023, I looked at this team. This is the team that I saw, and it intrigued me, right? Because look at this. It's got Ting Lu, It's got Flutter Mane, it's got Amoonguss, just like we thought. It's got Palafin here, right, instead of the Gyarados, but that's because the Arcanine is the Intimidator. And then you've got Kingambit over here, you know, exerting a ton of pressure, especially with Terra Dark Black classes, right? Now, the Arcanine here is a Will-O-Wisp set. It's a supportive set with Howl, right? So now all of a sudden, you can Howl with your Ting Lu and your Kingambit and your Palafin. And now all of a sudden, your what is apparently like a little bit passive is now actually very, very strong because of this Howl boost, right? So now I'm thinking, is there something that is common right now, clicking Howl, that we can use and modernize Luka's squad a little bit, right? You know, by the way, if you're watching Luka, again, thank you for the inspiration, you know, from Fort Wade, but he's not watching us, right? Anyway, so we go back here. So what's the most common Howl type user? I'll give you 2 seconds. It's Gouging Fire, right? Gouging Fire. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? We got a fire type here, and we also get a dragon type, okay? Now we start thinking about, okay, look at this. Hold on a second. We've got the Gouging Fire Gyarados combination that we featured in the previous video. We've got this Fire, Water, Grass core going. Okay, we got a dragon type. We got a fairy type. What's our steel type? Well, right there, we got Kingambit. Ladies and gentlemen, Kingambit is back in business, okay? But also Ting Lu is back in business. So now what do we got here? Look, so now with Gouging Fire, we've got Breaking Swipe stuff. Okay, so you got, you know, a lot of damage mitigation. Then Gyarados, again, gives you that Intimidate support. Along with Ting Lu reducing special attack damage. So this is really, really good, right? Because most of our team is rather physical. Yes, we have a Flutter Mane, but that's okay. All right, and then you have stuff like Thunder Wave over here, you know, for good speed control. And then Flutter Mane here with that Choice Spec set can even run Icy Wind on this set. So you even have a lot of, you know, tools that your team can utilize against a lot of different matchups, right? So now all of a sudden, this Ting Lu with only base 110 attack stat next to Gouging Fire, all of a sudden now you're looking really good because, you know, you're boosting this attack. And then look at Gouging Fire. Again, just like Ting Lu, another triple digit stat Pokemon. 105 HP, 115 attack, 121 defense. Very bulky on the physical end. Special defense a little bit lacking, but Ting Lu says, I've got you. I've got your back. We've got Vessel of Ruin. Those special attack damages are not going to do as much as they normally would be doing because of Vessel of Ruin, right? So we've got the support here. And then, you know, Gyarados is just a great pivot option, you know, for each of them, technically speaking, right? So we've got these three, and then Amoonguss just gives you, you know, a little bit of balance, that defensive backbone along with Gyarados, redirection support, especially, and then, you know, for that Trick Room matchup, Amoonguss looks really good. Kingambit, again, you know, a good, strong priority Pokemon. If you just give this thing a Howl boost, like Gouging Fire Kingambit, which is rising in Regulation F as it is, like, you just click one Howl, and now all of a sudden, Kingambit is just doing way too much damage with Sucker Punch, right? So you've got that going for you. And all of a sudden, look, now we've got a pretty balanced team and a little bit more of what Luka was trying to do over here with his Regulation C team. But now we've transformed it a little bit into Regulation F. So now what we're going to do is we're going to round out the rest of the team here. We're going to give it some EV spreads, and we'll showcase a couple of bad practice battles. All right, so let's go back into Ting Lu. All right, back here to Ting Lu. So basically, again, you're weak to Flutter Mane, but we have an EV spread that can live that anyway. Which we'll show you in a second, but I think for this set, we're gonna go with Stomping Tantrum, Stomping Tantrum, right? Then we're gonna go Payback, actually, right? And we're gonna only have 4 speed here, and the way Payback works is it's a really strong dark move. It'll double in power, right, if you move after the target. So this is gonna be, you know, you're gonna take some damage from Ting Lu, but that's okay. We're gonna deal big damage right back with Payback. And then to snipe those Flutter Manes, we can have something like Heavy Slam, and then just something like Protect over here. Right, now you can also forgo Protect here and just go with something like Snarl, for example. I think that's also pretty good. But it is up to you, the player, if you want to go for something like Snarl here. But I think Vessel of Ruin is pretty good as it is. And then for Terra type, you know, again, for the Fairy resistance, and even for the Fighting resist as well, I think just Terra Poison is relatively solid to start with things with Ting Lu. Okay, and then Gyarados here. So Rocky Helmet. All right, now, again, you can also put something like a Goggles here, but, you know, it just really depends on how you want to put the Gyarados. Yeah, I think the Amoonguss also will get something like a Citrus Berry this time around. Right, now, if you want to put the helmet here and the Citrus here, you know, that's also totally fine, depending on how you want to play it. Anyway, Waterfall is the play. Taunt, of course, for the Among Us stuff. You know, even something like Iron Defense Body Press or, you know, Calm Mind stuff, you can neutralize that. Helping Hand is the way to go. And we'll go with the modern Terra Ghost. Okay, so this way we can dodge those fake outs and start clicking Helping Hands into our other Pokemon. All right, now for Gouging Fire, we're gonna go with that booster energy set, for, you know, for speed, and we're gonna go Terra Grass here, you know, to help us against the ground type moves from something like Earth Power, Landorus, Incarnate, and then, you know, Breaking Swipe, Heat Crash, you know, for our fire move, Howl, and then the Burning Bulwark. Okay, this is our version of the Protect here. Then the Among Us here, you can go Terra Dark here, or you can either go Terra Water. It really just depends on how you want to do it. So this way you yourself don't get taunted. But other than that, Terra Water is also another very respectable option. Rage Powder, Spore, Pollen Puff, and then straight up Protect is pretty good here. And then the Fluttermane with the choice specs, we want the damage. All right, Terra Fairy is the way. You can also even consider Terra Grass to also help you get around the Among Us, also really help you against the Urshifu stuff, especially the Surging Strikes ideas. Even the Ogerpon Wellspring might even start hitting you with the Grass and Water move. So Terra Grass is also very, very feasible. But if you just like want raw damage, then the offensive Terra Fairy is totally fine. But either way, Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, and Shadow Ball are coming no matter what. Now, I have seen some pretty good success with Perish Song, which is really good into, like, you know, not just Dondozo in general, but also setup Pokemon, right? Because if things start setting up in front of you, they get hard to remove, right? But if you just click Perish Song, they have to switch it out. Otherwise, they just lose it, right? So if that is something more up your alley, you can definitely put Perish Song here. Otherwise, Icy Wind for the speed control is pretty nice. We are a relatively slow, bulky team, but there's still like good value with Icy Wind with stuff like, you know, Gouging Fire and Gyarados, for example, right? But if you don't want the Icy Wind here, you can just simply take it out. It's totally fine. King Gambit here. So I do like the Terra Dragon set here, actually, with the Assault Vest. You know, the Black Glasses Swords Dance was pretty good here. But if we're going for Howl, that's already like enough setup. I don't want too much setup because then the team is a little bit more passive. So at least we can get a little bit more bulk in with the Assault Vest. So this way, you know, we can capitalize off of our setup play with the Howl idea, right? So Kowtow Cleave. All right, Sucker Punch. We'll have Iron Head here as well. That's Iron Defense. Okay, Iron Head. And then we'll have Low Kick, which is really good against some of these heavier quote-unquote Pokemon, right? So Among Us, King Gambit, also very, very good combination. Also a pretty good lead in general. You know, just all things considered, right? So this is it. You know, Terra Poison, that's Ghost, that's Grass, this is Water, Fairy, and this is Dragon, right? So we've got the open team sheet ideas with the moves in the Terra. So now let's go ahead and do some EV spreads. All right, once again, we're going back into the Ting Lu. So basically, here's the set that we've got here. We're going to go Adamant Nature here. All right, we're going to go 76 investment. Why? Because 240 is a pretty good benchmark number, you know, especially for Grassy Terrain Rillaboom shenanigans. Then we can go 156 is the bump here, but we're going to go one more point above it for the even number just to optimize the Howl boost, right? Because if it's a decimal, if it's an odd number like this, +1 will give it a decimal, which will round it down. I don't want to round down my attack. I want a nice solid whole number, so I need an even number. So we're just going to put 1 point over there. Then we're just going to max out the Spadef like this, and then the remainder just goes into defense, right? Like, we're already super bulky. We've got Intimidated on the team. We don't really need defense here. The HP is already relatively high, all things considered, right? So this is the Ting Lu set. Again, 15 HP recovery per turn if you are going against like an opposing Rillaboom. All right, and then if you go into the damage calc, 76 HP and 252 defense. If you're going against a modest booster energy Terra Fairy Fluttermane, right, you are going to survive that Moonblast, which is absolutely insane, right? Modest 116 Terra Fairy Fluttermane. So like one of the strongest Fluttermanes you'll ever hit or go against. You will survive that idea, right? Now, in terms of physical bulk, if you just consider stuff like Chien-Pao with the Adamant ideas, you know, Icicle Spinner is just not doing all that much. Even Icicle Crash, like you live all this stuff relatively easily. Even the Ogerpons, right? Like Ogerpon, what's his name? Wellspring, right? Even the bulky ones, right? With 76 investment, right? And then if they just go with their Terra Water idea, like you still have this very, very strong role to live against this Ivyculture, right? The common Adamant 76 Ogerpon. So you're still sitting relatively fine in that regard. So, you know, all things considered, that's pretty nice. Rillaboom could be a bit problematic, you know, in terms of Ting Lu, which is, you know, why it kind of slowly started dying in Regulation D. But even that, right, like here's Woodhammer, right? And I'll even put Grassy Glide here. That's still okay. Let's say you were Adamant 252 here, right? So like Grassy Glide not doing a whole lot there. Like Woodhammer, of course, will one-shot you almost, technically 87% chance. But again, you've got Gyarados on the team. You're just chilling in front of that Rillaboom. It's not really going to do a whole ton of damage here, like as long as you've got that Gyarados. So like most Rillaboom games, I would just bring Gyarados, right? In all things considered, right? So that's the bulk here. So we're doing all right. Gyarados, we're going to just, again, borrow the idea and borrow that set from Sempra. I really like that set. Like, it's something similar that we've used before, you know, with just max HP, hitting the first bump here in the attack stat, a little bit of speed. 103 is enough. So this way, after Thunder Wave, you outspeed the Timid and Jolly Flutters and Chenpows. And then, you know, you just split up your 208 evenly here. You know, you put 100 here and 108 down here. And this is a very, very balanced Gyarados. And I like it a lot. All right. Gouging Fire. So right over here, again, just booster energy. Like Jolly set is pretty good. Like I'm not gonna lie, Jolly Gouging Fire with 204 investments has been absolutely good. This is gonna outspeed all the max speed Adamant Urshifu, so 150 is a very, very good benchmark. Then we go to about 212 here. Again, this is optimal for like Sand Chip, you know, because this is like the idea that we have a Tyranitar, but you can take 1 point extra here. Go to 208. All right, and then 68 over here for our attack set. So under Helping Hand, you know, with Gyarados, we can snipe most Flutter Mains with the Heat Crash. All the bulky ones, especially our bulky one, like you can pretty much one-shot them, which is actually pretty good. 1 point in defense, and then the remainder just goes into special defense like this. And that's really all we want out of Gouging Fire. Amoonguss, standard set here with Relaxed Nature, of course, just be super, super bulky and take physical hits relatively well. For the berry, we'll just go 244, 156 to the bump here, and then 108 Spadef with 0 IVs and speed. Now, again, you know, you hear me say and mention this word EV bump. If you don't know what EV bumps are, make sure you comment in the video below asking what are EV bumps. Because if you're trying to play competitive Pokemon and you're trying to learn how to create EV spreads with your Pokemon like this, you gotta know what EV bumps are. They're very, very fundamental. So ask, what are EV bumps? And I will reply to you with an answer, because you see me going to these benchmarks here and you might ask, why? What are these things? And I will explain that to you if you ask, okay? Or if you get a coaching session with me, all right? But more on that at the end of the video. Anyway, back to this Fluttermane over here. The damage calc that we're looking for is, of course, surviving the Chien-Pao, right? Because again, if we do go against a Chien-Pao, if we just go simple 252, 252, we're dying to Sucker Punch. It's almost like we don't have a Fluttermane, right? This is why we want to always invest in our physical bulk, right? So the investment that we're coming up here is 116, 196, right? Assuming, you know, you do the HP first, then you start getting all this defense until you get that damage calc from the Chien-Pao down to max 99%, or even the 6.3% chance roll is pretty good. But mainly, the first thing we wanted was like the speed stat, right? 189. This investment will outspeed all the max speed Fluttermanes, right? 1 point in the Spadef, and then the rest just goes into special attack like this. We've been using this Fluttermane set for many, many, many months, maybe half a year already. It's super bulky. It never really fails us. I have no reason to change it now. You know, even the only reason I would change it is if I was running booster energy, but still. King Gambit, we'll just keep it relatively standard here. We'll go Adamant Nature, max HP here. Let's hit the third bump here with 198 as a final stat, which means 196 investment. Now with the AV, with this 252, 52 Spadef, this will survive Earth Power from a Landorus Incarnate Life Orb Timid. Okay, if it's modest, then you die, right? And so then that's, you know, if you're playing a best of 3 and you see yourself die to that, then you know that they're modest nature. They're not timid because you live timid, all right? So that's pretty much it, right? So again, I just created some very general EV spreads with some, of course, damage calculations, right? So this is a pretty cool team. I'm not gonna lie. It's not something you're gonna see every day, but it's pretty, it will do the job, right? I promise you, okay? And then if there's any doubt, we have a couple of practice games to show you. So this way, you get a sense of how to really play the team a little bit. Okay, so let's take a look at those games. All right, this first game here, he's got the Furgraph stuff, you know, with the Flutter Mane, Instant Ogerpon, Wellspring combination with Lando Eye, right? And then he's got Iron Hands over here as his second fake out user, and maybe even his quote-unquote Trick Room Sweeper. I think he can put something else here, but, you know, Iron Hands is still like a very, very strong Pokemon, of course, right? So I like my own Intimidate here with Gyarados, right, to an extent, because we've got 1, 2, 3 Pokemon that are weak to Intimidate. And then you know, just Gouging Fire and Ting Lu also do relatively well here because, again, I see two things, weak to ground, and at the same time I can mitigate the damage from that Flutter Mane, right? And then Gouging Fire can help me do the damage that I need to do to be able to sweep, you know, potentially, right? So I'm just going to simply lead as I just said. So he's going to go with Ogerpon Furgraph here. So maybe just redirect instead of Trick Room. I'm going to go Ting Lu Gouging Fire here. And really, I don't really see a threat from this Ogerpon here. And, you know, even if I Terra here. So there's the Terra Poison. And he goes Protect. That's okay, right? Because now I just click Howl. And now, you know, my Ting Lu takes some decent damage. But look at the power of Payback. That almost one-shots it, right? So now he goes Terra Fairy. But this is okay. Follow me here. We got the Breaking Swipe. We knock out the Ogerpon here, right? And no, the Terra Fairy does reduce the damage against our Payback. But again, any chip damage is still good chip damage, right? So, you know, Heavy Slam might come just next turn here. But other than that, we go Heat Crash into Landers. We outsped it. All right, Sandstorm Storm, unfortunately, he had it. He picks up both KOs, which is still okay. All right, but now look at this. All right, we outspeed everything else. Like, here's Flutter Mane. And here's Gyarados, right? So we have the Intimidate support for the Flutter Mane. Not that it matters here. We have two special attackers. He protects, but that's not enough, right? Because Dazzling Gleam will just pick up the Flutter Mane. I'm sorry, it'll do enough where the Gyarados can just pick up the Furgraph, right? So now he's stuck here with the Landers. Iron Hands can't do anything here, right? He can't really fake out Flutter Mane here, so he can only do something to Gyarados. But, you know, at this point, he's taken so much damage that it just really doesn't matter. And the Rocky Helmet actually gets the last laugh in the grand scheme of things, right? Flutter Mane didn't take anything. So that was a quick game. But again, you saw the value and the combination of Gouging Fire and the Ting Lu doing the job, especially against an Ogerpon Wellspring, which it's supposed to be weak against. All right, this one was against a Latios, Registeel, and another Ting Lu. Ladies and gentlemen, look, I told you, people are picking up on the Ting Lu sauce. Make sure you use Ting Lu before everybody else starts using it. So he has a similar idea, right? He wants to reduce some special attack damage. He just wants to rely on, you know, stuff like Incin and the Ting Lu to allow his Registeel to potentially sweep, right? So the goal for him, set up Iron Defense, mitigate damage with Ting Lu and Incin, and let Registeel Iron Defense body press everything. And things that it can't, this is where you use Urshifu slash Rillaboom, right? So, you know, you can't body press a Ghost type. This is why he has the Urshifu there. But again, we have tools here, right? We have Gyarados, we have Ting Lu, we have Gouging Fire. We even have King Gambit here, which is pretty good against a lot of what he has, just because, again, we have a Dark type for his Latios. We have Low Kick for Incin. We have Low Kick for Registeel. We even have Low Kick for his Rillaboom, even. I'm sorry, his other Urshifu. But, you know, and we also have Sucker Punch Pressure. So anyway, here we go. So he's going to go... So we go Gyarados and Gouging Fire this time, which is fine. So this way, if he goes Incin, it's not really going to matter a whole lot. So, Gyarados... so he goes with Rillaboom and Registeel. That's fine, okay? Now, if he swaps into Incin here, that's okay, because we always have Howl. So this is the fake out Terra Ghost Gyarados idea. There it is. There's the Howl. We get a nice little boost. We taunt the Registeel, so this way he can't go for his Iron Defense, which is exactly what he was doing. Here comes Incin. All right, now we just lost our Howl boost, but that's fine. All right, Heat Crash going into the Rillaboom slot, decent damage, and a little bit of chip into Registeel, and he goes for Heavy Slam into a Gyarados, and I think our Rocky Helmet did more damage than he did to us, right? So there's the Grassy Terrain Recovery, which is fine. Heat Crash into Registeel, not a whole lot of damage, just a little bit of chip, but the main thing is to remove the Incineroar here, which is exactly what we did from this range. Okay, so Incin is gone. That's good. Now we can start howling again, all right? And the Registeel does have its taunt ended, which is fine. Now it's actually the Rapid Strike Urshifu, but that's still fine. Like Terra Water, that's not going to do anything here. All right, we Breaking Swipe the Urshifu again. You know, it will just crit through it, but we're still fine. So he goes into the Terra Ghost Ursh, right? But look how bulky our Gyarados is, right? Like the fact that we can survive this is amazing. Okay, Rocky Helmet Chip dealing more damage to it than he deals to us, almost, right? And we're getting more grass recovery return. Gyarados is still alive on the field. Okay, he protects the Ursh, which is still totally fine. We go for another breaking swipe, you know, just to try and get more chip damage on the Ursh. We taunt the Registeel yet again to prevent him from going for that Iron Defense. And Heavy Slam is just still not enough to pick up the Gyarados here. So we're dealing chip damage over time. The grassy terrain is letting him live, as well as leftovers. But Rillaboom comes in here. That's still fine because look, we go for Helping Hand and we go for the Breaking Swipe. Again, now the Rillaboom taking good damage and it's -1. It's not going to do anything. And Heavy Slam still is not picking up this Gyarados. All right, so now we make an interesting read, right? We're going to swap out the Gyarados here. All right, we're going to go into King Gambit, right? Because I know he's going to go for a Fake Out potential. He went into the Gouging Fire. I could have did Burning Bulwark there. But Heavy Slam, King Gambit resists. And now this is pretty much all she wrote here, right? We always have this slot pinned, okay? This Registeel is within range of the low kick. He has Protect on his Rillaboom, which means he's not AV. But there's the Howl and there is the low kick anyway. So this is also preparing for the end game because the Urshifu is no longer a fighting type. So we can always pin that slot with the Sucker Punch. I know for a fact he's Scarf, right? Because he outsped my Gouging Fire in that sense, right? But no, actually he didn't. But, you know, I know he's Scarf anyway. So Breaking Swipe. Now it's just Rillaboom. He can't break it. He never broke through our stuff, right? The Gyarados was still alive in the back, waiting to Intimidate Cycle this Rillaboom. Not that the Rillaboom was going to do anything 1-on-4, but the idea was that we were so bulky that he could not break it. And, you know, his team was relatively passive, right? The Registeel just could not get set up, which is where you see the value of Taunt Gyarados, right? Okay, so once again, here is the Pokepaste here on the swing. Give this team a try. Let me know how you do. Again, feel free to make adjustments here, but at the very least, I wanted to give you a good solid starting point with Ting Lu with this kind of team, right? Again, I kind of took the core of Fluttermane, Gouging Fire, Amoonguss, and Gyarados from my Sand video and said, all right, we're going to kick the Sand Boys out, which, by the way, is still doing well, by the way. And then we just add Ting Lu and King Gambit here, and they do relatively well, right? I have to say this is still like a pretty solid team overall. So give it a go. Try it in a best of 3 tour. Try it in some ladder games. If you need it for a local, go ahead. Here it is. Free team, okay? But if you're looking for something else and you need help building a squad, if you're trying to go to Knoxville, if you're trying to go somewhere else, a local, a premier challenge, an MSS, or if you need something for an online tournament, or maybe just something for ladder, feel free to sign up for a coaching session one-on-one on the channel. A team building session is a tier 3 sub to the channel. So if you look in the video description, we have a link that you can click to join the channel. Or if you look in the pinned comment section, we have that same link that you can click. And then once you join, you're able to message me on Discord. Then we can coordinate a time to meet. You can join the Discord if anything. And from there, we get you what you need for whatever it is that you need the team for. All right, but that's going to do it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.